What would George Washington do? Mike Adams, straight ahead. What the First World War looked like, you can go back and look at history. Or the Second World War, or what the CIA and others call the Third World War, the Cold War. But now, you get to experience the Fourth World War. It's economic, it's psychological. The Communist Chinese were set up in 1949 by the CIA. The nationalist Chiang Kai-shek was thrown out. And since it was built up as a corporate communist bulwark to take over the planet. Well, at the last minute, Trump took over and populists got elected, and we said no to the trade war China had been having for 50 years, and we'd won that war. But then a bioweapon sold in 2015 by Obama at North Carolina University to China got released. And scientists looked at it and said it's a bioweapon, and it killed quite a few people. But the virus isn't the issue. The hype, the fear, the media saying it's the end of the world. And we predicted a month ago they would blame Trump for this. They would say that, oh, because he played it down and didn't want to kill the stock market, that he's the reason it's here. Well, last hour I played a bunch of clips of them saying just that, hoping the virus brings down our economy to stop America and Trump, but also saying it's his fault, as if we're idiots. So Mike Adams of naturalnews.com, researcher, scientist, owns a major testing facility, author, has been chronicling this. And we talked the last few days. We said there's this dichotomy, this bipolar system where they either say that there's nothing going on with the virus and it's a hoax, or it's the end of the world. No, the virus is man-made. We know that. It has killed some people. It does spread fast. It is engineered. That's why you got to be concerned, because we don't know. It's an unknown quantity. There's been a cover-up. We know that. Deep state trying to set Trump up. That's all confirmed too. But that isn't the issue. The media's unification day one, 5 weeks ago. The UN's unification, saying China's doing good, mowing people down with machine guns at checkpoints, but if U.S. tries to block planes coming here, we're bad. Let us know we were the target. And InfoWars and Mike Adams, we raised the alarm, and the head of the U.S. biological weapons law and treaty, he came on and said that, and it's all been confirmed. Limbaugh says, oh, it's man-made, but don't worry about it. I'm not attacking Limbaugh. I get he's just saying, oh, don't hype it up. It's, you know, no. Admit it's bad, and admit it's hyped up, and admit the Democrats openly came out and promoted it would bring down America. If we just get on the offense with this, it's over. But if we're on the defense and listen to globalist agents inside the CDC and the National Institutes of Health, well, then this could be the garrote that chokes America and Trump to death. Mike Adams, lay it out for us.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Alex. First of all, when Democrats criticize Trump over his handling of this, their criticism is completely illegitimate because they're coming from a place of falsehoods and a history of other hoaxes, and they do not have the best interests of America in mind. Now, when you or I temporarily criticize President Trump, and I have been very critical of his handling,
it's only to warn him.
It's only to warn him and to hope that he can maybe get better advisors and get better people around him. But the big story here is that there is, I believe, and I've said this for weeks, there is a deliberate effort by the CDC to withhold testing in the United States. That has happened for weeks. A deliberate effort by people in Homeland Security and the State Department to spread the infection, to deliberately spread the infection in America. And by the way,
you said that 4 weeks ago. That's all confirmed now.
Yes. Well, right. Because if you put infected people with non-infected people on an airplane and fly them back to America, as happened from Japan by a decision of a State Department employee, that
who we know are against Trump. I mean, they've literally been. The UN says Trump, don't like 3 weeks ago, don't stop flights, and then the State Department says, right, screw Trump, bring him in.
It's deliberate, and when you have federal employees who are interacting with isolation quarantine patients at Travis Air Force Base in California, and they are given training 5 days after they had the interaction, and they are not given personal protective equipment, i.e. PPE is what it's called. And then you have community outbreaks just outside Travis Air Force Base, and that woman now infecting staff and doctors in 2 hospitals in California. Alex, that is not an accident. It is deliberate. It is sabotage. And
Mike, you've been saying that for a month. Now it's confirmed. They're now blaming Trump as you predicted they would do.
Well, exactly right. And by the way, the argument of conservatives who are saying that now anybody who believes the virus is a pandemic or anybody who criticizes Trump is now anti-America or hates Trump or is trying to bring Trump down. That is a logical fallacy. The virus doesn't play politics.
We don't want Trump set up. China didn't shut down all its major cities and do this on a joke. They're doing it as an attack on us. With the media, exactly. We predicted with an attack, as has now happened.
Well, exactly. And you mentioned Rush, so I'll bring this up. Okay, Rush says there's only a 2% mortality rate. Well, if you infect half of America, which is pretty typical for a flu, 2% comes out to roughly 3.3 million dead Americans. So Rush essentially just admitted there could be millions of deaths in America.
Let's be clear.
Which is 100 times larger than the flu.
And let's be clear. We don't want that to happen. It's terrible. The media is going to hype the living hell out of that after Rush and everybody was conned into just saying it's not an issue. When it's a Chi-Com weapon, Obama sold them. We have their ass. If Trump would just go after Obama for this, it's over.
That's right. That if Trump would talk about the origins of the virus,
yes,
fire top people at the CDC, expose the CDC's withholding of the diagnostic test kits, which again I believe is deliberate. Have a DOJ
I'm going to hold over
into the CDC.
Mike, let me just say this because you're absolutely right. And I'm going to let you just host next segment because I'm going to interrupt. This makes me so mad. We predicted it. We showed it. We're on target. You're absolutely right. They held back the kits. They're setting the president up. The deep state's already screwed him over and over again, and this time they're doing it through a virus, working with the Chi-Coms, Mike. It's so obvious. In fact, it's not debatable. This is what's happening. So what do we do?
Well, one more important point. The Institute for Disease Modeling did a study. This is up on Zero Hedge right now. I haven't had a chance to cover it yet. The virus has a known mutation rate. By looking at mutations in different people, you can actually calculate a timeline of how long the virus has been spreading in a certain area. According to that study, which was just published, this virus has now spread to an estimated 1,500 people in Washington state, and it has been replicating for 6 weeks. So that's that study. And it's extremely important to understand this. People, geneticists can actually study how long the virus has been around based on the known mutation.
There it is on headline. Scientists discover HIV-like mutation. Yeah, it was added to it. It's engineered, which makes coronavirus extremely infectious. What, again, explain what that means to people. That is so huge.
Well, the key point here is that by delaying the testing kits, the CDC has allowed the virus to replicate by a factor of about 1,000. So if the test kits were available early on,
they could have stopped it early.
So they could have stopped it early. They would have had what they call the intelligence or the surveillance of the disease. They would have been able to lock down the very small pockets and prevent those from going big. Now it's already gone big. By my estimation, Alex, there are between 5,000 and 10,000 infections in America right now, but most of them haven't yet been diagnosed. The labs have only been given permission to be turned on starting tomorrow in most cases, and it's going to take 2 weeks to ramp up the public health labs at the state level across the country. 2 weeks from now, we'll have a total capacity, according to Dr. Fauci, of about 10,000 tests per day nationwide. So we're going from essentially zero, to 10,000 per day over the next 2 weeks. How many confirmed cases will we see? Well, it's very easy to actually predict that. We're going to see tens of cases throughout the coming week, and then dozens of cases in the week following.
And by the way, Mike,
hundreds of cases.
Notice as soon as Trump doubled down and said it doesn't exist, it's not a problem, that they go, oh, now we're able to give tests out to discredit him. He's being set up by the bureaucracy. Whether the virus is super deadly or not, now this is about, and the media can't help it. They're suddenly like, oh, Trump screwed. He covered it up. He said it wasn't a problem. Their pre-programming shows us the setup.
Well, that's right. And even the advice they're giving him, like, oh, have enhanced airport screening. Well, we already know that airport screening misses 75 to 80% of infected patients because of the asymptomatic incubation period. So airport screening, not very effective, actually.
The Army is preparing for 3 million Americans to die from the coronavirus. That does not mean that 3 million people are going to die. But currently, the CDC says they believe it has a kill rate of around 2%. That's a lot better than Lancet a month ago saying 15%. When Trump says it's like the flu, that is incorrect if you believe these numbers. The president may turn out to be right. He usually is. The flu might kill 0.1%. Usually run down, old, infirm, pre-existing conditions, bad immune system. Still terrible. So the flu kills 30-something thousand people a year, and that's less than 0.1%. If it's anywhere close to 2%, we've got the graph up here, that's 3+ million dead. And with the condition of all the different Democrat cities being giant, festering incubation dishes of rundown drug addicts and rats and feces and needles and pre-existing conditions, this could be really explosive. But it's how it'll weigh down the hospitals and what it'll do to the economy and the hysteria it's already committed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here, back live. We have accurately, in a really unbelievable way, chronicled exactly what was going to unfold with this deadly coronavirus, because we were looking at it from the perspective of the globalist in history and how they've responded and what they've done before, and we've war-gamed every aspect of it that we personally could. But from day one, in the response to it, and the way the media globally was unified, and the way authoritarian countries were unified in using it as a political crackdown, we knew it was big. And we asked the question, is it just a political hoax to grab power and hurt the economy and hurt nation states and populists? Or is it really deadly, super deadly as well, and very communicable? And is it both? That was 5 weeks ago. We then learned a few days later, 4.5 weeks ago, that major Indian university that has the CRISPR gene editing system scanned the virus with high-powered electron microscopes and saw it was actually a composite virus with the gene editing incision points and protein markers in place. The scars, the signs, all of it right there. At that point, we stood back, and I said, and I don't have the crew to do this, but you all heard it, you all saw it, who are regular listeners. I said, within a month to 2 months, store shelves are going to be empty in the United States. And I said the cover-up of this may be what creates the massive hysteria. Well, now it started a few weeks ago. I told you that around military bases, people that know what's going on, they had cleaned off store shelves at places like Costco, Sam's Club, and Walmart of essential items, not just the mask. Now, since last week, Costco's across the United States, Europe, Walmart's, other facilities have been stripped dry. We have just article after article, video after video of that happening. Then Trump comes out when the stock market drops 15% and says the media's response and hysteria is a hoax. Not the virus is a hoax, but the super end of the world hyping of it is a hoax, which is true to hurt the economy. But it doesn't matter because the globalists have been so good at hyping it and locking down China, and China shot all those videos hyping it and shot real people at checkpoints and welded people into their homes like a Day of the Dead Armageddon movie. People saw that. That wasn't fake that they were walling people in and welding them into their homes. It wasn't fake that people were dying, but who knows what they were really dying from? That stuff they're spraying on them? All we know is the globalists are making their move, and it's been proven accurate. But it isn't about sitting here saying we've been proven accurate. It's about saying how do we stop this? We've proven that we've done the analysis, the listeners, the callers, the guests, all these experts together in our brainstorm. We know it's man-made. We know that they've totally hyped it and are using it for martial law from Italy to Russia to China to North Korea. And we know that President Trump is saying it's hype. There's a real problem, but they're hyping it up bigger than it is to hurt the economy. And that's dead on, and we predicted they would do that. But the way the media split it now, they've been so much successful, the control media, in making it two different discussions. It's either totally a hoax and nothing's happening, which we know that's not the case. There's a real virus there. How deadly it is, you can debate. Or it's the end of the world, as mainstream media is saying. When the truth is, they've released a virus that does kill, it looks like at least 1%, maybe 2% of people. And I have a graph we'll show in a moment. And it does spread really, really fast. And they did cover up the fact that it was already in the U.S. a month ago, like we told you, and that's even in the Boston Globe today. And we've seen all these globalists get up on TV and show that they're sick in all of this to help create the hysteria. In a moment, I'll go to this graph. But it's a big deal whether it was a total hoax or whether it's absolutely super deadly. Because the globalists are unified and are making their move on the economy to bring down Trump. And now the Democrats last week were admitting it, saying they hope this brings down Trump, and they're rooting for it to bring down the economy. That should bring them down. And Trump needs to come out and not get into whether the virus is deadly or not. Just say we're going to try to handle it, and we're strong, and we can deal with it, and stiff upper lip. Not say there's nothing there, because they could get him on that. They're already trying to frame him as that. We warned him of that. We know their moves. This is so obvious, so easy to understand once you really immerse yourself in it. But he needs to point out that the media is trying to hurt the economy, and that the media is with the Chi-Coms, and that authoritarian countries like China use this to clamp down on their opposition like we told Trump he should do a month ago. So that's where we're at. And that's where I stand. And Pat Buchanan agrees with that and put a big article out last week on February 28th, coronavirus crisis. It's Trump's time to lead. Now, let me hit the really scary news. Can we put that graph back up on screen and put it back here for TV viewers, please? Now, Mike Adams has put out similar numbers. Others have. This is what the CDC and others have been saying. We can put it up on full screen, too. But total U.S. population, 327 million, plus 30 million illegal aliens. Half the population exposed, they believe, in the next 6 months. That's 163 million people. Coronavirus fatality rate at 2%. That's what the CDC believes it may be at. They're not sure. That's 3.26 million. Now, I talked to an Army lieutenant colonel who's currently in very secretive parts of the government, and he said they're preparing for a 2% death rate is what they believe it is. That's a public number, too, but this is what the Pentagon thinks in the briefings, and that they're looking for 3 million dead in the United States in the next 6 months to a year. They hope that's an overprojection, but that's what they think. And then this morning, I mean, I might have an Army lieutenant colonel in my house once a year or something, just on some other business that I was doing and taking care of. This guy retired about a year ago. He's there. I had to leave to work. He's in there having coffee with my wife. She calls me and says, hey, I don't want to travel anymore. He's saying the Pentagon thinks 3 million are going to die with a 2% death rate with half the country set to get infected. And I haven't talked to him yet. She was talking to him. But the point is, that's what the Pentagon's putting out. And he said that's what people he talked to that are currently in, at those higher levels are saying in Army Special Operations. So this is a big deal if that's true and if that's accurate. And obviously then, you know why Trump is there trying to play it down. He doesn't want to create hysteria. But this isn't going to be millions dying next week or even next month. It's just now starting to replicate. But we've got the numbers on the replication, and it's exactly as we thought. Much, much worse than what they were claiming just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And that's what creates the hysteria, is the playing it down and being proven wrong. The Army is preparing for 3 million Americans to die from the coronavirus. That does not mean that 3 million people are going to die. But currently, The CDC says they believe it has a kill rate of around 2%. That's a lot better than Lancet a month ago saying 15%. When Trump says it's like the flu, that is incorrect if you believe these numbers. The president may turn out to be right. He usually is. The flu might kill 0.1%. Usually run down, old, infirm, pre-existing conditions, bad immune system. Still terrible. So the flu kills 30-something thousand people a year, and that's less than 0.1%. If it's anywhere close to 2%, we've got the graph up here, that's 3+ million dead. And with the condition of all the different Democrat cities being giant, festering incubation dishes of rundown drug addicts and rats and feces and needles and pre-existing conditions, this could be really explosive. But it's how it'll weigh down the hospitals and what it'll do to the economy and the hysteria it's already committed. So let's go through just the headlines. There's no other way to go through all this but just to read the headlines. All of a sudden, people all over America are prepping like crazy. BigInfoWars.com article. You'll want to go look at the videos and photos. Coronavirus panic buying clears shelves at Costco. Told you that was coming a month ago. Iranian pilgrims taunt coronavirus with communal licking of religious shrines despite outbreak. OECD, that's the UN, sounds the alarm, warns global growth could shrink by half thanks to coronavirus. The Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. That's the group, that's the real global government behind the UN right there. That's the king daddy right there. That's the Marshall Plan. You want to know about the top of the pyramid, that's it. Coronavirus outbreak kills second person in Washington state after first New York case confirmed. Coronavirus may have spread undetected for weeks in the U.S. Boston Globe. Oh, we told you that a month ago. We told you where it would come from, too, Washington State, where we already had sources saying it was spreading from the White House. Florida's first coronavirus cases found in Hillsborough and Manatee counties. That's the Tampa Bay News. Virus reported in wider region of West Coast. Anxiety mounts among U.S. health workers on the front lines of coronavirus outbreak. That killed a lot of doctors in Asia. Macau casino takings plunged 88% over virus closures. Yahoo News, French news agency. Detroit woman recounts coronavirus ordeal on Diamond Princess, double quarantine. This is truly a nightmare, how one businesswoman's flight from China ended in coronavirus quarantine, CNBC. Coronavirus is different. It's rapidly hitting supply demand. It's a bomb hitting the supply chain. That's what's real. Because of the globalist hype, the Chi-Com hype. We knew it was going to be big because of their hype. We were analyzing that, not contributing to it. Outbreak fears emerge in Nigeria as government finds 100 people exposed to first virus case. What did we tell you a month ago? That the U.S. had faulty kits that weren't working with the reagent and that they weren't sending out the code of the RNA so that people couldn't find out how bad it actually was. Why was that done? Because whoever's running things at the CDC wanted China to tank first. CDC teams race to catch up with spread of coronavirus in U.S. MSN. Entire Italian region government getting screened for coronavirus. Panic buying hits German stores as coronavirus cases double. Health and Human Services investigating defect in coronavirus test. Where'd you hear about that weeks ago? Next week's news today. That's out of the Hill. Panic buying hits New York as first coronavirus cases found in NYC. Coronavirus patient released from isolation in San Antonio, later tested positive. We told you that weeks ago. France closes the Louvre as virus spreads to new fronts. Empty stadiums and no more selfies. Coronavirus becomes a 2020 X factor. Yeah, the black swan. Media and the Democrats, fake news, claim that Trump called coronavirus a hoax when he said them saying it's the end of the world's a hoax. And boy, the worm has turned. Even PolitiFact came out and said that Trump was right, that he did not say the whole thing was a hoax. China officials knew of coronavirus in December, ordered cover-up, report says. New York Post. Yep, we told you that first. Chinese doctors perform world's first double lung transplant for coronavirus victim. Here it is. CBS's Scott Paley fact checks Mike Bloomberg on Trump coronavirus comment, finds that he lied. Trump did not say the virus was a hoax. Some election officials scrambling to address coronavirus concern ahead of Super Tuesday. Yeah. Who will it make not go to the polls? What will it do to the general election? Wow, this is huge. We told you that weeks ago. Again, we war game every angle, folks. That's why they don't like us. They want it to dribble out slowly with their spin on it. Nope, not going to happen while we're still on air. Not while the listeners keep us on air. And then it just goes on from there. We're going to cover it all coming up. But first, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot to cover, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Boy, am I hungry. What do you want? Maybe I'll get an apple. An apple? Let's buy some candy.
Hold on, fellas.
Lifeline!
Listen to your friend Terrell. He's got the right idea.
Yeah, you never catch an NBA player eating a candy bar for a game.
A candy bar might give you a quick boost of energy, but after 20 minutes, you'll feel run down. So let's eat smart.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe! Part of this is eat more flax, okay? Now, then some critic would say, well, you're telling people to eat flaxseed and not take the vaccine. You moron, there is no vaccine. But you can get flaxseed at the grocery store right now, so do what you can now. It doesn't mean that you can't consider other options later on. You can consider prescription drugs. You could consider a vaccine if you want to take that risk. You can consider all those things. But you can eat flax too. It's called complementary medicine. You can have food and nutrients that work for this. While the brainwashed masses are waiting around 18 months for the pharmaceutical industry to come up with a vaccine that probably won't work, but it will be laced with toxic ingredients, you could be doing things right now to enhance your health by changing your diet, and that's the subject of this segment. Thank you for joining me. Mike Adams here from Natural News on the Alex Jones Show with solutions for coronavirus. Now, I've been doing a lot of research the last few days on certain molecules, because I study molecules all the time in the lab. I run multiple mass spec instruments. We do time of flight mass spec, triple quad mass spec. We do pesticide analysis, CBD analysis for quantitation of cannabinoids and things like that. So I'm very familiar with this area of research. And I was looking at what are the most likely natural molecules that can inhibit the enzymatic processes required for the coronavirus to replicate. One target for that is called 3CL, or 3C-like protease, which is an enzyme that's necessary when the virus takes over your body's cells. It needs that enzyme function in order to continue to replicate and swarm your body with more viruses. Now, the good news is that there's a ton of research on this because of SARS. So back in 2003, when SARS first had its outbreak, remember, SARS is a coronavirus, and it shares about 80% of the genetic code, which means the protein structure, with the current Wuhan coronavirus, nCoV coronavirus, or whatever new name they have now. They keep changing the name every day to try to distance it from China, by the way. So they keep coming up with new names. But if you go back and look at the research on SARS, it's quite fascinating. After the SARS outbreak at that time, China itself funded a tremendous amount of research into natural herbs and foods, substances, various molecules, various bioflavonoids, for example, typically from fruits, Chinese medicine substances, also prescription drugs as well. They tested every chemical they could think of against SARS, and they found quite a few molecules that would have a very strong inhibitory effect against the 3CL protease process in the body. And right now I'm documenting those. I'm going to share a few with you here today, but I'm doing more research and more documentation so that I can present this publicly with good research behind it. Lots of papers that out there on this right now. So the good news is you don't have to be killed by this, and there is good, steady research right now about what can work. And so let me give you an example. One of the interesting things here is I found a theoretical research paper that was doing protein modeling. This is a theoretical paper, not a clinical trial, but it found that one of the food chemicals that can function theoretically to help stop this virus is called herbacetin, Herbacetin, Herbacetin. Turns out it's a phytochemical found in flaxseed. So you can eat flaxseed right now, and you can get herbacetin in your body at some level. Now, I haven't tested flaxseed for what concentration of herbacetin is found in flaxseed. It might be that you have to eat pounds of flaxseed to get a therapeutic dose of this. I don't know the answer to that yet. But the truth is, it can't hurt to eat flaxseed. That's the thing. There's no risk, there's no downside to eating healthier, and you're going to get some nutrients that may actually work to block this virus. So that's one of them, herbacetin in flaxseed. And by the way, flaxseed is rich with omega-3s, and it protects your heart. It helps prevent type 2 diabetes. I mean, it stabilizes blood sugar. Flaxseed is amazing. I put some in my smoothie every day, and I've been doing it for years. I'm drinking ground up flaxseed every day. And not just flax oil, by the way, flax lignans, flax fiber is very good for you. So, part of this is eat more flax, okay? Now, then some critic would say, well, you're telling people to eat flaxseed and not take the vaccine. You moron, there is no vaccine. But you can get flaxseed at the grocery store right now, so do what you can now. It doesn't mean that you can't consider other options later on. You can consider prescription drugs. You can consider a vaccine if you want to take that risk. You can consider all those things. But you can eat flax too. It's called complementary medicine. You can have food and nutrients that work for this. And by the way, speaking of food, there's another bioflavonoid that we found in the research that is found in orange peels. And I actually did an article on this. It's mentioned in a patent of an antiviral sanitizing spray that you can spray on the surface, and it kills coronavirus. So this is known to kill viruses on surfaces, and it's a patented formulation based on bioflavonoids, mostly from citrus peels. So when I found that, you know what I did? I went out and I ordered certified organic orange peel granules. And as soon as I get those, I'm going to be mixing those into my smoothies, because you know how you can have orange zest as a spice? A lot of meals, I don't know, high-end chefs or something, high-end restaurants, they'll have some orange zest on your food. Well, it turns out that orange peel, although not typically considered a food, you wouldn't want to make a meal out of it, but you could buy candied orange peels, for example. You can use orange zest as a spice, and it's full of nutrients. And some of these nutrients have an antiviral effect. Isn't that amazing? So, and that's just another example. Again, I have a lot more research on this. Here's something else. We found that there is a tree, I'm not going to name it yet, but there's a tree that grows in Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. The bark of this tree naturally synthesizes a molecule that kills coronavirus. And this wood has a very special smell. I've actually got samples of it right next door here. It has a very special smell. It's used in exotic wood carving and wood furniture. When I visited temples in Taiwan, when I lived there, I remember the smell because that was the furniture. It was carved out of this very, very special exotic wood. And it's used in Korea and Japan and Taiwan and even China. This wood contains a chemical that kills coronavirus. So isn't it interesting that the people in the countries that are being hit by this virus, they are living among trees that are already growing the cure for free, naturally. And yet they're waiting for a vaccine. And many of them will die waiting for a vaccine or waiting for a drug because they don't recognize the medicine that's already there all around them, indigenous to the area. Mother Nature's already put the cures there. We just have to be wise enough to recognize them. Now, some practical things about food. Many of the molecules that we're finding are found to be highly present or high concentrations in exotic Indian cuisine, Pakistani cuisine, Middle Eastern foods. So I've got a homework assignment for you. I want you patriotic Americans out there, people who love America, I want you to eat Middle Eastern food for a while. I want you to eat Indian cuisine. I want you to go to a Pakistani grocery store, which has an amazingly potent smell because those are the herbs in the jars. I want you to buy the mixes, buy the herbs, buy the curries. I want you to go load up on all these exotic food recipes and mixes from the Middle East. Again, maybe you can find Afghanistan food. I'm not sure, but this food contains natural antiviral molecules. You should be eating this food Because if you live on pancakes and corn syrup and frosted flakes, that's not going to help you. That's just garbage, processed food, and carbohydrates. The medicine is in the potent, pungent spices. And in fact, it's amazing. I found a spice. I bought a sample, a spice that is so potent that contains a molecule that combats coronavirus. I'm not prepared to name this particular spice yet, but I'll give you a hint. It's used as a flavoring agent in exotic Russian gin. Because the taste is amazing. It's like an explosion of all kinds of phytochemicals and phytonutrients in your mouth, and it contains antiviral nutrients in this spice. It's known as a spice, and it's used in certain exotic recipes throughout the Middle East. So literally, while you're waiting for Big Pharma to fumble around with failed tests and toxic vaccines, you can be eating your way to a defensive posture to defend yourself against this virus. Change what you eat. Go for the spices, the pungent mixes, the orange zest, the herbs that work, the superfoods. This can literally help save your life. I'll be back after this break with more. Stay with us.
I have to do what's right.